Imagine dying in the most brutal way possible, only to wake up and have to live through that exact same nightmare again. And again, and again. But each time you die, you get a little bit better at staying alive. Welcome to the most intense time loop movie ever made. What's up, movie lovers? Today we're diving into Edge of Tomorrow, the most brutal boot camp in movie history, where dying is just the beginning of your training. This is like Groundhog Day meets Aliens meets Saving Private Ryan, and somehow it works perfectly. Let's dive in. We start with news broadcasts showing us that the world is basically screwed. A series of fragmented news broadcasts describes how an asteroid carrying an alien race called the Mimics has crashed in Europe and devastated the continent in a deadly war. Losing battle after battle over 5 years, the NATO-led United Defense Forces finally win a victory at Verdun, France. These aliens, called Mimics, are absolutely terrifying. They move like liquid metal, they're incredibly fast, and they've been destroying human forces for 5 years straight. Europe is basically gone, and humanity is hanging on by a thread. But there's one ray of hope. A legendary soldier named Rita Vertasky, played by Emily Blunt, who single-handedly won the Battle of Verdun. The media calls her the Angel of Verdun, and she's become the poster girl for the war effort. This woman is basically a one-person army. Now enter our main character, Major William Cage, played by Tom Cruise. And here's the thing about Cage. He's not your typical Tom Cruise action hero. This guy is a PR officer, basically a military spokesman who's never seen combat in his life. He used to work in advertising, and now he sells the war to the public through interviews and press conferences. Cage gets called to meet with General Brigham, who wants him to cover the upcoming invasion of France, Operation Downfall. They're planning a massive D-Day-style assault on the Mimic-occupied beaches, and Brigham wants Cage there with cameras to document humanity's great victory. But here's where Cage shows his true colors. He objects to the dangerous assignment and threatens to use his public relations skills to turn the public against Brigham when the casualties start increasing from the invasion. Basically, he tries to blackmail his way out of going to war. This is not the heroic Tom Cruise we're used to seeing. This guy is a coward who's willing to threaten his superior officer to avoid danger. And Brigham? Brigham is having none of it.
Arrest this man.
Next thing Cage knows, he wakes up in handcuffs at a forward operating base at Heathrow Airport and discovers he's been labeled a deserter and put on combat duty as a private for the invasion of France under the command of Master Sergeant Farrell. Bill Paxton plays Sergeant Farrell, and he's absolutely perfect. This guy is a tough-as-nails drill sergeant who takes one look at Cage and knows exactly what he's dealing with, a soft PR guy who's about to get a very rude awakening. Farrell assigns Cage to J Squad, a group of soldiers who immediately don't trust him. They think he's a spy or a coward, and honestly, they're not wrong. Cage has no idea how to use the mechanical combat suit they give him. He doesn't know how any of the weapons work, and he's clearly terrified. The night before the invasion, you can see the fear in Cage's eyes. All around him, real soldiers are preparing for what might be their last night alive, and this guy who's been selling the war from behind a desk is about to experience it firsthand. The invasion begins, and it's immediately clear that something is very, very wrong. The invasion is a disaster for the humans. The Mimics knew they were coming, they were ready, and they're slaughtering human forces left and right. Picture this, hundreds of dropships flying toward the French coast, soldiers in mechanical suits ready to land on the beach, and suddenly the sky fills with Mimic fire. Ships are exploding, soldiers are dying before they even hit the ground, and Cage is in the middle of it all. Completely unprepared, Cage's dropship crashes on the beach, and immediately he's in hell. The beach is covered with burning wreckage, dead soldiers, and Mimics moving like nightmares through the smoke. These aren't your typical movie aliens. They're like living metal, moving in ways that seem impossible, killing everything in their path. Cage has no idea what he's doing. His weapon jams, he can't figure out how to use his suit properly, and he's basically running around like a panicked civilian while trained soldiers die around him. This is not the heroic Tom Cruise we're used to seeing. This is a terrified man who's completely out of his depth. But then something interesting happens. Cage manages to kill a large Mimic, but dies as he is sprayed with its acid-like blood. In his final moments, as this alien's blood burns through him, and then he dies. Game over. End of story. Except, he then wakes up at Heathrow the previous morning. Wait, what? Cage is back at the base, in handcuffs, with Sergeant Farrell yelling at him, just like before. Everything is exactly the same. The same conversations, the same soldiers, the same preparation for the invasion that he knows is going to be a disaster. No one believes his story that he knows the invasion will fail. When he tries to warn people about what's going to happen, they think he's having a breakdown. Farrell thinks he's trying to get out of combat duty. His squad thinks he's lost his mind, and the officers think he's a coward making up stories. So Cage goes through it again. The dropship, the beach, the slaughter, his death. And then he wakes up at Heathrow again. This is where you realize just how brutal this concept is. Cage isn't just reliving a bad day. He's reliving the most traumatic, terrifying experience imaginable, over and over again. Every loop, he watches his squad die, he experiences his own death, and then he has to do it all again. But something interesting starts happening. Each time through the loop, Cage learns a little bit more. He starts to anticipate when the mimics will attack, where the dangers are, how to survive just a little bit longer. He's getting better at war through the worst possible training method, dying repeatedly. After several loops of dying horrible deaths, Cage has a breakthrough moment. He repeats the loop of dying on the beach and waking at Heathrow until he encounters Sergeant Rita Vertasky. Rita, the legendary angel of Verdun, somehow knows what's happening to him. When Cage demonstrates that he knows exactly what's about to happen next, Rita immediately understands. She tells him to find her when he wakes up, and then she gets killed in the battle. But now Cage has hope. Someone understands what's happening to him, and it's the most badass soldier in the human army. Cage finds Vertasky at Heathrow in the next loop. Together, they meet with Dr. Carter, a former government scientist and expert in mimic biology. And this is where we learn the rules of this insane situation. Dr. Carter explains the mimic hierarchy. There are regular mimics, dangerous but basic. Then there are alphas, the blue ones that control and coordinate the regular mimics. And at the top is the Omega, the hive mind that controls everything. Cage learns that the kind of mimic he killed in his first loop, an alpha, resets time when it is killed to give the mimics an advantage in battle. Think about how brilliant this is. Every time the mimics lose a major battle, they just reset the day and try again with full knowledge of what the humans will do. Cage inherited this ability when he was doused in the alpha's blood as they both died. The alien blood gave him the same power the mimics used to always stay one step ahead. But here's the kicker. Vertasky had this ability in a previous battle in Verdun, but lost it after receiving a blood transfusion. She's been through this before. That's how she won the Battle of Verdun. She lived through that battle hundreds of times until she figured out how to win. Vertasky tells Cage that the Omega wanted humans to believe that they could win, so it allowed Vertasky to win in Verdun, so that humans put everything into their battle at France and get beaten. It was all a setup. The mimics let humanity win one battle, so they'd commit everything to this invasion, where they'd be completely destroyed. She tells Cage that they must hunt the mimic's hive mind, the Omega, and until that day, Cage has to die each day to reset time. Cage's job is to use the loops to find the Omega and destroy it. But that means dying over and over again until he gets strong enough and smart enough to complete an impossible mission. Carter tells Cage that the Omega has lost power to reset time to Cage and will be mentally looking for him. When Omega finds Cage, Cage will start having visions of the Omega's location. The Omega is trying to track him down to kill him and get its reset power back. What follows is essentially the most intense training montage in movie history. Over succeeding loops, Vertasky trains Cage into a more effective soldier. But Rita's training methods are extreme. Every time Cage makes a mistake, Rita kills him. Not kidding. If he's not fast enough, if he hesitates, if he shows fear, bang, she shoots him in the head, and he resets to try again. To Rita, Cage dying is just a training tool. She's turning him into the perfect soldier through repetition and death. The training scenes are both hilarious and brutal. Cage goes from barely being able to walk in the combat suit to becoming an incredibly skilled fighter. He learns to anticipate every move, every attack, every moment of the battle. But the cost is dying hundreds of times. You can see the toll this takes on Cage psychologically. At first, he's horrified by dying. Then he gets used to it. Then he starts getting frustrated by the repetition. The loops are changing him from a coward into something harder, colder, more focused. After getting discouraged from these loops, he travels to London. There he realizes and sees the mimics were planning on overrunning London during the invasion on the beach. Even if the beach assault succeeds, it doesn't matter. The mimics are planning to hit London while all the human forces are in France. Humanity is doomed either way. This is where Cage starts having visions of the Omega. He sees it hiding in a Bavarian Alps dam, and he becomes obsessed with reaching it. He and Vertasky spend several loops learning how to survive the battle on the beach and get inland based on his vision. But every single loop ends the same way, with Rita's death. No matter how perfectly they execute the plan, no matter how many mimics they kill, Rita always dies before they can reach the Omega. And watching someone you care about die over and over again is destroying Cage emotionally. After numerous loops and in Vertasky's death, Cage decides to hunt the Omega alone, abandoning her and the rest of the invasion on the beach. He can't watch her die anymore, so he decides to complete the mission solo. This is such a powerful character moment. Cage has gone from someone who wouldn't risk himself to save others to someone who's willing to sacrifice everyone else to save the one person who matters to him. When he arrives at the dam, he discovers that the Omega is not there. It was a trap. The visions were fake, designed to lure him away from the real location. Cage realizes he's been played. The Omega has been feeding him false visions to waste his loops and keep him away from its true location. He manages to kill himself before an Alpha can steal his blood and prevent him from resetting the day. Back at Heathrow, he tells Vertasky and Carter that his vision was a trick. Everything they've been working toward, all those deaths, all that training, it was all for nothing. They're back to square one, except now the Omega knows exactly who Cage is and what he can do. Cage and Vertasky adopt a new approach. They infiltrate the Ministry of Defense in search of a prototype built by Carter that will allow Cage to discover the Omega's true location. The device is a transponder which, once attached to an Alpha, finds the location of the Omega. This leads to some of the most creative action sequences in the movie. Cage and Rita have to break into a heavily guarded facility, steal this prototype device, and escape alive. But since they can reset if they fail, they can attempt increasingly crazy and elaborate plans. After several failed loops, they obtain the device from General Brigham, which reveals that the Omega is located under the Louvre Pyramid in Paris. They use the device on Cage himself. Since he has Alpha blood in him, the transponder treats him like an Alpha and points to the Omega, but then disaster strikes. They're injured as they flee, and both are knocked unconscious. So Rita is unable to kill Cage this time when he gets injured. Cage's life is saved by a blood transfusion, but it removes his ability to reset the day. The one advantage they had, the one thing that made their impossible mission possible, is gone. Cage can die now, permanently. There are no more second chances, no more loops, no more training runs. If they fail now, it's over for everyone. Vertasky frees Cage, and they return to Heathrow, where they convince his squad to help destroy the Omega. This is a beautiful moment. The same soldiers who didn't trust Cage at the beginning now believe in him completely. He's become the leader they need, and they're willing to follow him on a suicide mission. The team is given instructions not to kill the Alpha, as if an Alpha is killed, the Omega will reset the day and will know in advance of the squad's attack on Louvre. They have to fight their way through Paris without triggering a reset, which makes everything exponentially more dangerous. The mission is everything you'd expect from a final assault: brutal, desperate, and costly. The other squad members sacrifice themselves to get Cage and Vertasky beneath the Louvre. Every death now is permanent. Every sacrifice is final. These aren't just characters dying and resetting. These are real people giving their lives for the mission. Under the Louvre, they find the Omega, this massive, organic alien brain controlling the entire mimic invasion. It's surrounded by Alphas and regular mimics, all protecting their hive mind. Vertasky distracts a waiting Alpha while Cage advances on the Omega. This is their last moment together, and both of them know it. Rita is giving her life to give Cage one chance at saving humanity. The Alpha kills them both, but not before Cage primes and drops a grenade belt into the Omega's core, destroying it and neutralizing the other mimics. As the Omega dies, its blood covers Cage, and something unexpected happens that Cage's body absorbs the Omega's blood. Since the Omega was the source of all-time reset power, its death creates one final, massive reset. But this time, it's different. He wakes up en route to his meeting with Brigham the day before. This isn't the same loop he's been stuck in. This is earlier, before he was arrested, before the failed invasion. Brigham announces that mimic activity has ceased following a power surge in Paris. The mimics are all dead. The invasion never happened, and humanity has won the war without even knowing there was a final battle. Cage is never arrested, and he goes to Heathrow, where he finds his squad mates, including Farrell. None of them recognize him and treat him respectfully as an officer, as he is once again a major. To them, he's just another officer they've never met. He meets Vertasky, who does not recognize him either. She's alive, the war is over, but she has no memory of everything they went through together. She asks what he wants, as she had many times before, and he smirks and laughs. This ending is both happy and bittersweet. Humanity is saved, everyone is alive, but Cage is the only one who remembers the hell they went through. He's the only one who knows what Rita sacrificed, what his squad gave up, what it cost to save the world. Hope you guys enjoyed the recap. If you did, be sure to check out other awesome recaps on the channel. As always, thank you very much for watching.